Hey, fellow Riblets, it's me, Tom from Target Prime Rib. We're here. I see so many people that are in the chats. Thank you, everybody, for coming on. I'm here right now with the famous, infamous. Um, oh, hold on one second, if I can find it. Sorry about that. I keep on. You know what it is I hate about. I always put YouTube on the side, and it doesn't let me mute it until it's on. Until
Mhm.
the stream starts. So it's like, which I really don't need to have it on. I think it's just a force of habit, to tell you the truth. I guess I just want to pre-see, but I can actually see that with StreamYard here. So Bob, Robert Angle from Carnivore Talk is my good-hearted guest today, and I'm happy to see you. How you doing, Bob?
I'm doing pretty good. I actually went out and worked today and just got back a little bit ago
Yeah, I
and
work today too, so.
changed clothes and here I am. So very good. I do the same thing. What I do is actually I go to my video and I pop out the chat and then I close the video. So that way you don't hear the video in the background, but I can still watch the chat in a separate screen.
Right.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
you kind of learn like techniques and stuff like that, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. So, so anybody that's on here, also check out Bob's channel on YouTube and his Facebook, and make sure you push the like button for him and give him some love. All right, and because we're actually streaming on both of our channels today, which is something new that I've never been able to do before, but we're actually doing that today. And um, so today of all days to be here on Valentine's Day. I don't know if you had any plans with your wife or anything like that, but
So we're sitting she's watching TV, so having a lazy day today. So
well, I guess when you're married for a while, I guess.
That's true. That's true. So, we're 25 years, and like probably for the first half of that, we'd rack our brains like, hey, I got to come up with something special this year as a gift. And then we kind of got to this point where we're kind of like, we have like everything we need now. Our kids are grown. And there's nothing, so then now we just sit down together, like, what do we need together? So like a couple years ago, it's like, hey, you know what? We need a new refrigerator. Let's go buy a new refrigerator for the both of us, and that'll be our anniversary gift to each
Yeah,
other.
it's like
Real terrible, real cheesy, but it's kind of like we've run out of ideas at this point. So flowers, dinner, and we're good.
no, no. Is she carnivore like you, or ketovore or whatever you want? I keep on forgetting what exact diet that you are.
Yeah. So I am carnivore 95% of the time, but I have no qualms with cheating with ketovore or cheating with animal based from time to time.
Okay.
If the mood hits. So I'm, like I said, out of 30 days in a month, I'm probably carnivore every single meal except for maybe 3 of those days. And then
Mm.
among those days, I might have an apple or some blueberries. I might go out to eat and have a broccoli as my side, or asparagus or something like that. And my personal rule is no grains, no refined sugars. And I certainly try and refrain from as much as possible, but I'm not super strict when it comes to seed oils, So I'm not going to ask a restaurant what they cook in. I don't really care. And so that's the way I am. I call it carnivore centric. So, hyper carnivore, 70% or better. I am way better than 70%. That's for sure. But I am not anti-plant by any means. So,
Right. Yeah. I mean, I
yeah.
I notice whenever I'm looking in the chats or even on your panels and stuff like that, just watching, I notice that I don't hear very much judgment from you when it comes to that particular, which is I think I think it's stupid to judge other people. Like we're all different, and
Yeah.
we all have our belief systems, and we all have our like what we're gonna do.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I'm a student of Dr. Berry, and so
yeah,
Dr. Berry, has his proper human diet spectrum, where one end of the spectrum is zero carb carnivore, and the other end of the spectrum is up to 100 grams of carbohydrates from all natural whole food sources.
right.
And where you will thrive best on that spectrum is going to be different based on your personal physiology. And so that pretty much harmonizes with my thinking on it. So I do better more on the carnivore end, so closer to the zero. And so that's where I like to stay. But like I said, I'm not anti-plant. I think the human body is remarkable. It's resilient. A little bit of plant toxin here and there, your body's capable of recovering from that. When people get sick, like I used to be, is when you consume those things chronically and in mass quantities day in and day out. That's when you're going to have problems, for the most part. I mean, there are people that are super sensitive with small portions, but by far the average person isn't. So
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. So we got a few people in here. I just want to say hello to everybody, really quickly in the chats, and then we will go. Now I know we were talking about different people that are in here when we were talking, you and me. But Sandy was the first person here. So hey, Sandy, how you doing? And then my carnivore sister, Tanya, Kitchen Witch, is here. And then we got Barbara, Grandma Crochet Corner, which I think you've met, right? Or at least
yeah, I've seen her YouTube content, and she's been on my streams also in the past.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I know
Has she ever been
I
on
know
your
all these
panel?
all three of these people so far.
Has she ever been on your panel or no?
No. So
Oh, okay. Well,
she's more than
Barbara,
welcome to.
I'm sure, yeah, you're always invited to
Yeah.
the Bob's. Oh, you know why? Because she has her lives.
Yeah, I think when
She's
I know
every
when
day.
I'm done and I sign off, I refresh my YouTube page and she's live. So
Right. She goes live at 9 o'clock. So
and I'm live at 8. So there's a scheduling conflict. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, she probably could pop on for a few minutes,
Mm-hmm.
And then we got Uncle Charlie here. Hey, Uncle Charlie, how are you doing? And for some reason, Uncle Charlie's mentioning about Pretzel Pete, but I don't see Pretzel Pete here. So unless he, and then we got Rick Charger Mopar. I saw a little bit of your live today, Rick. Pretty good. Linda Flanagan is here, and then we got some guy named CarnivoreTalk on 2 different platforms, and we got Coach Angela Mullins here, and then we got another one of my moderators. We got Carnivore Jerry. And then we got Smoothie 42 is here. George is here. George, good enough. And then we got Steadfast Sharon is here. And let me see. I'm just going quickly and just reading the names. Free Thinker is here. Ivy, WeNet is here. Paul, we know Paul, right?
Mm-hmm.
Paul Salvatera. And he's going to actually be on my channel in April 11th, I believe I have him down for. And then I think coming from your channel, Terry Girl is here, Terry Sue. And see, Patricia Butler. Got a lot of people here. So you attracted a lot of people there, Bob. Roxanne Friend is here. And Laney is here. Well, you can't have George without Laney. And then Dave on the record. Actually, he has a question, so we'll do that question now. Hey Bob, huge fan of your show. I've watched back all old episodes. Curious if you still talk with Meathead. Okay.
So I haven't spoken with Meathead in a long time. So he was very active in the community, and he was very active on my Monday Night Lives. And for a moment he started his own YouTube channel, and then one day he took it all down and he kind of vanished. So, and and that's okay. He was out of his comfort zone doing all that anyway. You know, he knew he was kind of pushing himself out of his comfort zone, and then I don't think he liked being out of that comfort zone, and so he kind of went back off grid, and so that's just his personality type. So good guy. You know, miss having him around. He was fun to talk to. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and then we got two more people, and then we have retired Rick is here, and we got Lizzie from Lizzie World. So, all right. So, I think most of these people have already seen your channel, but I'm just going to put right now, I'm just going to put add to the stage and just make bigger a little bit. This is actually Bob's YouTube channel. All right. So anybody that's not subscribed to him, definitely do so. And we remove that now and put, I don't know why we're not in there. Let me just get rid of that. Sorry about that. Ah, there we are. Okay. I'm like, where are we? Okay. So if Jerry or Barbara, if you guys could put it in the chats too, on my end, Bob's channel, so that people can click on it and subscribe. Anybody that doesn't know. But I can't see no one knowing about your channel. I think you're a lot more popular than I am. Not that I'm putting myself down. I'm just, there we go. Stop sharing.
Maybe not. You are more regular on YouTube in the YouTube community. So and then my subscriber count is higher, but I have a couple niche videos that is kind of that's what's caused people to subscribe. I've talked about some two very specific things, three actually: ulcerative colitis, and I talk about high triglycerides, and I talk about chronic kidney disease, because I have had those conditions. And when you have those conditions and you do a carnivore diet, you sometimes get results that most people on a carnivore diet don't expect.
Right.
And it can scare you. And then your PCP can use that information to scare you even more. And a lot of people, they quit carnivore and they go be vegetarians because what happens to their blood work and stuff scares them. And that's why I publish those videos. So I have some kind of unique content, and that's where like most of my views come from. So
okay. Yeah. And just to ask the question to everybody in the chats, I know Bob's hearing it, but every once in a while there's a ding, because I'm getting like these texts from other carnivores. It's actually from other carnivores. We're actually doing a meetup on next Saturday in New Jersey, and it's kind of a group chat, on my phone, and it's connected to my computer, and it's kind of going off because everybody's like pushing each other like Happy Valentine's Day and all that stuff. And I'm just interested, is it just me and Bob hearing it, or are you guys hearing it too? And if you are, I do apologize. There's nothing I can really do. So if I mute myself while Bob's talking, we should hear it a lot less. But I will have to unmute myself, obviously, when I'm talking. So, but I just wanted to apologize and see if, Jason just said he can hear it. All right. So I do apologize, everybody, on that. I can't stop people from chatting, unfortunately, and I can't figure out how to disconnect it from my phone. So it's actually, Lewis taught me how to put it in, and I don't know how to take it out.
That's okay. You could if it's connected by
Tammy just made it because they keep heartening what they're sending. Okay, so maybe it'll stop now that Tammy herself is like admitting that.
Oh.
I didn't realize I was doing that to you. And we got somebody, I don't know if this is Mark Zia Hammer. Is that somebody from your channel? Yeah, I guess it is, because coming from your...
Yeah, it looks like they're watching on my channel.
Good.
So
that's what we want, right? We kind of want that interaction and that togetherness, because I think what could help you, like what comes from mine can help you, and what comes from yours can help me,
That's why we do this. So one way to share the love. Very good.
Uncle Charlie's asking if I borrow prime rib from Target. No, that's a long story of how my name came about. Oh, we got two more people that just came. Well, three if you count Tammy. Tammy Golf, which are new. Oh, please, guys. Sorry about that. I gotta hang. If that it's a 732 number, so I don't know who's actually calling me. So if that was you, Tammy, calling me, I'll call you back if you want. I don't know, but I should have her on my thing, so it should come up with her name. But we got Retire Rick Carnivore, which Retire Rick was on here before, but I think he's coming on from his other channel. And then we have Kelly Broken Carnivore is here, which he's been on your channel a few times.
Oh yeah, he's on regularly. Yeah.
And Juliet Edens is here. So hello, ladies. Hello, everybody. All right. Yeah, I can't mute it. I can't figure out how to do it, Sandy. Don't worry about it. I'm sure it will.
So a thought that I had is if it's connected to your computer via Bluetooth, you can get your phone, shut off Bluetooth. That'll sever the connection.
Okay. Well,
and then when we're done with the interview, you can turn Bluetooth back on, and then the connection should automatically reconnect to the computer.
All right. It's going to probably take a couple minutes, but yeah. I mean, like I said, while you're telling your story, I'll mute, and I can do it while you're telling your story. Don't worry, I'm listening to you.
Okay.
You know, just because I mute doesn't mean I can't hear. So I'm going to have you start telling a little bit about yourself. I know you said the three things that you like the best about yourself that brought you to carnivore. Maybe not like the best, but that brought you to carnivore the most. And you know, I mean, like what started your journey, and you know, and don't worry about you know, going fast or anything like that. I'm not looking for speed, you know, just tell, you know, like however speed you want to do and however comfortable you want to do. And everything. I usually try to reserve like at least 2 hours. You can go less than that. That's up to you. It depends on your time and your day and stuff like that. But
okay.
You know, I don't like do like 1 hour shows and try to rush you. So I mean, Gary No Slow took about 3 hours and 23 minutes. So, you know, whatever your thing is, you know, just go at it.
Okay.
And if anything pops up, you can see the questions, right? You can see the chat if I popped it up.
I can see the chat as long as I'm making the effort to look at it. So
well, like when I put it on the screen, I mean, so
yeah.
I'm going to try to get the chat. It hopefully, you know, and I will put it up on the screen, and you know, that way if you see it, you could always stop and just answer the question. You know, because hopefully they're mostly going to be for you anyway.
Okay, yeah. All right, yeah. So if there's any questions, you know, use a question mark, put some Q's before it. You know, I'll be happy to answer them. As far as taking up 2 to 3 hours, we'll see. I have a tendency to be concise. So, but
we'll
yeah,
be fun.
Yeah, that's all right. So my name is Robert Angle. I live in Northeast Ohio. I have all my life, and another thing that I've experienced all my life is obesity. I was a heavy little kid, and always made fun of in school for it. The first thing I ever did to try and address it was probably between 7th and 8th grade. I made a switch from Coca-Cola Classic to Diet Coke. I don't know if you're old enough to remember that there was New Coke and Coca-Cola Classic. So I was a Coca-holic, and would drink that stuff all the time. I hated it, but I forced myself to switch and developed a taste for it. And being a teenager, that actually significant, you know, between, you know, 7th grade to 8th grade, I had lost a significant amount of weight. And then in my high school years, I was also kind of like had growth spurts, and, you know, it went from my gut kind of shrank as I shot up in height. By the end of my senior year, I was actually looking pretty good. I was attracting girls and things like that. And, but then when I started my adult life, well, I took the easy way out like a lot of people do. So all of a sudden I'm eating fast food all the time because I'm working in fast food. I'm working in restaurants. I'm delivering pizza. And so I have access to all this carbaholic nonsense, and I'm packing on the pounds. And so I got really big again. And then I wanted to do something about it. And my neighbor, I had a neighbor, they a bunch of kayakers. They went to Kent. They were Kent State college students. They lived right next door to me, and one neighbor handed me a book called Dr. Atkins' New Diet Revolution, and told me to read it. And so I read Dr. Atkins' book, New Diet Revolution, from cover to cover, and it made sense. And so I started to apply the principles that I had learned in his book. And the induction phase is somewhat carnivore-ish. You're cutting yourself down to 20 carbs or less. And so I was doing that. I started to shed the pounds, and I did really well on it. So I lost a lot of weight, and I was looking good again. But some of the problems with Atkins' plan, and the problems are with me. So I will say there's no problems with Atkins' plan. Okay, I think he's spot on, and I think the things we hear from like Dr. Berry today are a reflection of what he originally wrote. What his company became after he died, that's a whole nother story. But everything in that book is golden. My problem with it is it was a lot of fun trying to come up with different recipes. So you're making things from scratch. I had not carnivore. I had low carb keto pancakes. You're trying to make keto version. That's what you end up doing, is you're trying to always come up with some keto version of something that you miss from the standard American diet. You're always trying to come up with an imitation meal that would be low carb. And because of that, you never really get over you never fix your mindset about, hey, these are foods that you probably shouldn't eat ever again, because you're always trying to come up with mock foods that will work, and they're never as good. There's never as good as you try and come up with like a breakfast pancake, or if you're trying to come up with like low carb bread, there was like oopsie rolls and bread that's made with like cream cheese and stuff like that, like they passed, but they were never as good as a real thing. Try and come up with like, not carnivore. I'm going to say that all the time because I've been carnivore now. You come up with like low carb pasta. You could buy these noodles that are made from some sort of fungus or whatever, and they're really low carbohydrate because they're all fiber or something. And you try and put some pasta sauce on and eat it. It just doesn't work, So then what happens? Well, you want the real thing, and so you fall off the wagon because you ate the real thing. And that was the problem with Atkins, is always trying to come up with these substitutes. The other problem with is he had 4 phases: induction, and then as you graduated through phases 2 and 3, you gradually increased your carb count to try and find out what your carb limit was before you lost the weight, before you stopped losing weight. And you also would add in different food groups, a different one at a time, slowly, to see what foods might not work for you. And all that's fine. And then once you know all that, stage 4 was Atkins for life, and you're supposed to eat like that forever. Well, nobody does that. So, once you've allowed so many carbs back in and so many food groups come back in, now you've opened yourself to the addictions that you had before, and it's just so easy to slip off of it. So that's what I did. I'd yo-yo diet, and typically I would swing from like 175 up to 230 and back down to 175 and back up to 230. And then eventually it started to get more difficult. I was going down to 200 and then back up to 230 and then down to 205 and back up to 230 and down to 210 and I couldn't quite get down as low as I could. And I always thought to myself, wow, maybe I did something wrong with my body or something, but keto just doesn't work anymore. And that's kind of the way I felt.
Right.
And then you get married and you get comfortable, so then they're like, okay, why do I need to lose weight and impress anybody? I got what I need. I got house, car, wife, kids, dog,
Right. Yeah. So you don't really have to impress anybody.
Right. Why lose weight? We're doing pretty good. Well, that was fine until I started to have a series of health issues. So, in probably around 2010, uh, 2008, something like that, I developed ulcerative colitis. And that is basically, I know that because I was having to go to the bathroom like upwards of 25 times a day, loose stools. I couldn't eat. If I would eat, then I was stuck in the bathroom for the next couple hours. And I lost a lot of weight then because I was afraid to eat. I didn't have any insurance. So I went, well, I complained about it to like my dad, and he's like, "It sounds like you need to go see a doctor. That sounds pretty serious, And so when Obamacare came out, I didn't get it the first year, but the second year I went ahead and got it because I needed insurance. And when it first came out, it was actually affordable. I used to say at the time it was an Obama send, LOL. And we got some insurance. My wife was having some problems with fibromyalgia too, so we were both able to see some specialists and get on some medications. And then so the ulcerative colitis, after they had the colonoscopy, they showed me the imaging, ulcers everywhere, and they gave me they offered to remove my colon. But then they said that there was like about 5 different drugs that they could try to get it under control. And the one that they put me on was called Dipentum. The brand name is also known as mesalamine. And I asked, like, is there any changes I should make to my diet that would help this out? And he said, no. He goes, ulcerative colitis is a autoimmune disease. We don't know what causes it, but we do know it has nothing to do with diet. You can eat whatever you want as long as you take these pills I've prescribed you. And naive as I was then, I trusted that.
He's of course we all trusted the things we were told.
Yeah, he's the professional.
Right.
And so for years, that's how I lived. Every year, and it was an expensive drug that insurance companies didn't like to pay for. So every year was a game of trying to find the insurance company that would cover most of the price of the drug. And I did that up until 2019, and I picked an insurance in the marketplace, and that said on their website they covered the drug. But then when I went to go pick up my prescription in January, they were like, well, that'll be $2,500. And I'm like, it's usually $150. I'll be back. And I went home and I called the insurance company, and they said, oh, we reclassified it from a class 4 to a class 5, which means we still cover it, but only after you've met your out-of-pocket maximum for the year, which is like 14 grand, because the health plans kept getting worse over the decade, and I'm like, well, you guys are never going to buy me one then. And so I had to stop taking it. I couldn't afford that. And then February, March, by about early April, my symptoms have returned because I'm not taking the drug anymore. And I made an appointment with a gastroenterologist, and he was booked out till late August. And that's when I started doing the research about, what could possibly be triggers for ulcerative colitis. And I was in these forums very similar to CarnivoreTalk, but they were for IBD, irritable bowel diseases. And I noticed that a lot of people were saying that coffee was a trigger for them. And I was drinking a pot a day. I would wake up at 7 a.m., brew a pot, drink half of it at home, and spend the morning in the bathroom, then put the other half in a thermos and take it and sip on it all day long, because that would kill my hunger pains, because I didn't want to eat food.
Right. So you're kind of like drinking your food, basically.
If I would eat food, I'd be stuck in the bathroom. So the coffee kind of kept me satiated throughout the day. And then I'd eat something when I get home, and then I'd spend several more hours in the bathroom. And so I'm like, coffee. So I quit coffee, and it was in July of 2019, and my symptoms improved tremendously. I still had issues, but I was not confined to the toilet like I had been previously. So I was like, wow, so then I'm like, okay, diet does have something to do with it. Now I'm trying to eliminate other things. Well, let me try and eliminate the Smucker's sugar-free jelly because that's chemicals. Let me try and eliminate this. And that, every week I'd try and eliminate something else. Let's stop eating hot peppers and hot sauce and see if I can't find something to improve it. This same year, my doctor asked me to do some labs, and I went and got the labs done. And then he calls me up and he says, you need to go get the labs done again. They may have made a mistake. There's something looks bad with your kidneys, and we want you to rerun the tests. So I reran the tests, and it came back just as bad or even slightly worse. And he said, you need to see a nephrologist right away. And so again, it's 2019. I see the nephrologist. I get an ultrasound of my kidneys, and he classifies me as late stage 4 severe chronic kidney disease. And in talking to the nephrologist, he says, you're spilling a lot of protein, so I want you to eat more protein. And I said, okay. And I also said that the next time I see you, I'm gonna be 50 pounds lighter, and they're like, okay, we'll see. Everybody says that.
Right. I'm sure they hear it all the time. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then so I went back to my PCP, and we talked about what the nephrologist said, and I said the same thing to my PCP, like I'll be back in 6 months, and I'm going to weigh as much as my son. And he kind of laughed, and he goes, the only way you're going to pull that off is if you eliminate every single carbohydrate. And I was like, that's exactly what I'm going to do. And so I went on keto, and gradually started losing weight. And then I thought at the time I broke a toe in like 2021. I went from 230 down to like 190 something. And then I had a gout attack. But I was eating keto, and I didn't do the zero carb thing. And it was still a plant heavy keto, and it was still dirty keto. So I was still eating the keto bread,
Right.
keto tortillas, keto Quest chips, and
Right. Like it said keto, so it must have been good.
If it's keto, it must be good. And my results were meh. And but then after that, I think now it's a gout. At the time, I thought I broke my toe, and that kind of like I lost my motivation because I couldn't exercise anymore, and the weight came back. And then during that time I was doing that keto, though my kidney numbers were improving. And then they started to go the wrong way. They started getting worse again. And so I was like, okay, I need to get back on the bandwagon. So in 2023, January, I started low carb, February, dirty keto. By March, I stumbled across Dr. Berry. And because I didn't want to reread the Atkins book because this is the modern age. Why read when I can watch YouTube? So I started looking up keto recipes on YouTube. So I was still cooking. I was cooking for the family, so I wanted them to be on board. And I came across Dr. Berry, and he kind of like helped straighten me out. He's like, keto, it's not that keto stopped working for you. It's just, I succumbed to Big Food's bastardization of keto, and he's the one that said, keto is fatty red meat, half your plate, the other half slow carb veg. He's like, if you go to the store and it says keto on the package, that's BS. That's not keto. And then it dawned on me. I'm like, that's why it seems like keto stopped working for me, is because at first I used to love making all these things myself in the 90s when I had read Dr. Atkins' book, cooking all these recipes from scratch. But then Big Food came along and took that away from you.
Right.
Now I was like, oh, why labor over all this stuff to make my own keto oopsie rolls for bread when I can just go down to the store and buy a loaf of keto bread?
Yeah. And they probably tricked us too.
Right.
It's, like we just want the, it's nature, we just kind of want the easy road.
Yeah.
And if it's already done for us, then why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I started doing keto Dr. Berry style in March and in April. And then during the same time, since I'm now watching Dr. Berry a lot, his carnivore topic videos started showing up in my YouTube recommendations feed. I'm like, carnivore. And I'd watch a Dr. Berry video. He's talking about the carnivore diet where you don't eat any plants at all. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, no,
I think most of us thought Dr. Barry was crazy
yeah.
when we first saw him.
Why, man? Come on, Dr. Barry, you seem so reasonable. What is this? You know? And I come from a strong religious background. So, you know, in the back of my mind, you know, Garden of Eden were originally created to eat plants, yada, yada, yada. So like, it doesn't jive, you know?
Right.
And, in May, I broke my ankle in the backyard here on an accident. I had to go to the hospital in an ambulance. And I was thinking, wow, here we go again. Just like before when I thought I broke my toe. You know, I was making progress. I'd got back down from 230 down to in the upper 190s.
Good.
And I was like, what am I going to do now? I can't exercise. I thought I'd be laid up for 6 months, you know. And I was like, well, I guess I'll give this carnivore diet a try. And so that was my first day of carnivore. Was that next morning in the hospital, after I had my surgery, and you know, they brought me a hospital menu, and this hospital actually happened to have a good menu, and it's not the proverbial hospital food that everybody complains about.
Right.
And you looked at it, you know, you had your choice of like, you know, salads and steaks, and I was breakfast, so I saw eggs, bacon, sausage, you know, so I want some scrambled eggs and cheese, bacon, sausage, you know. What would you like any toast? Nope. You know, I'm just going to do the all meat thing. And so that was my first carnivore meal with the mindset that I'm going to be a carnivore. And over the next 6 weeks, my bones completely healed and I was walking again. And I couldn't get on the scale and weigh myself. In fact, my wife hid it because she didn't want me trying to walk around and stand on a scale with a broken ankle. But during that time, I had lost 10 pounds. Over the next 6 weeks, I lost 10 pounds watching Netflix, playing my PS5, and sitting in my recliner. So I was literally doing nothing.
Which
No
blows you away
exercise.
a little bit, right?
No exercise. I just switched to a carnivore diet, and the next 10 pounds melted off like it was nothing. And I was like, man, I'm sold. And then I go to the doctor to checks on my ankle, and it was just supposed to be a progress check. He x-rays it, and he goes, wow, you healed super fast. He goes, you can try walking anytime now. He goes, it'll probably take you 30 days to learn to walk again. You know, just start with some crutches and gradually transfer less weight from the crutch back to your leg. And so I was back walking again in 3 days, you know. So, and then I was just like, I was blown away. So then that's when I was sold. But also during that 6 weeks that I was carnivore, I watched my blood pressure come down because it used to be really high, even with the meds. But then I watched it come down to normal range, still with the meds though. But you know, nothing. You know, it was a struggle to keep my blood pressure somewhat reasonable. All of a sudden, it's normal now, and so I'm sold. I'm converted, and I go on the internet to look for more carnivore information. Now, one of my hobbies is web hosting and creating communities.
Okay.
And so I have a few communities that I either own or moderate or administer. And I started to look for a community for carnivore. And I found 2, and they were dead. So there was one called Carnivore Town. Someone set it up, carnivoretown.com. Someone set it up, and the owner was the only member. You know, you create a bunch of forums, and they all had 0 posts, and you could tell it was neglected. And then there was another one called carnivoreforum.org or something like that. And there was a previous YouTuber in the carnivore community named, I think it was Joey Waltz or something. I don't know. He was a young kid. It was his forum, but then he also kind of slipped off the ladder. He went primal. He was getting into this all like raw meat kind of thing. He was telling all the other carnivores that they were wrong. He was stupid enough to get on Bart K's channel and to Bart K, and Bart K absolutely roasted him. And and then he left the community. And next thing you know, he was uploading YouTube videos about how much fruit he's enjoying. He was like in some tropical place eating all kinds of fruit and other junk, and he was completely out of the carnivore thing. So he had abandoned his community, and so it died. And so that's when I was like, okay, well, I'm going to try and start one. So I registered the name CarnivoreTalk.com, used the software that I'm very familiar with, and I started trying to build a community. So that's how that started. And then since then, I've found, like, there's some Facebook communities, there's some Reddit communities that are pretty popular, but there was no dedicated domain name, that was specific, or website specifically tailored towards carnivore. That's why I did that. And then and I wanted to get the word out, that's just it. So then after some time, I get down to my goal weight, and I go have my blood drawn. My PCP wants me to get a CMP and a lipid panel, and my lipid panel shows my HDL at 16 and my triglycerides at 1,800. They had gone way up. I typically had triglycerides in the 700s for as long as I remember.
All right.
And so all of a sudden they were 1,800. And he flips out. I'm flipping out because the carnivore doctors, they tell you that your triglyceride to HDL ratio is a better predictor of cardiovascular disease and heart attacks. And it should be 2 to 1 or less, so if you have 100 triglycerides and 50 HDL, that's 2 to 1. That's good. And I'm 1,800 to 16. I'm like, I should be dead. Well, at least that's what I'm thinking. Like, oh my God, I'm gonna have a heart attack, even according to the carnivore doctors. And so I talked to a few. I talked to Dr. Barry. I talked to Dr. Kiltz. And one of the recommendations was to, I think it was lower the protein and up the fat, try and change your macros a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that. And 2 weeks later, I tested again, and my triglycerides went to 2,000. I think it was 2,887. It's it's on the thumbnail. 2,887. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And my PCP flips out, and he puts me on a drug called fenofibrate. And that's designed to bring the triglycerides down. And I'm scared because, I got an HDL of 10 now, and triglycerides of almost 3,000. And even the carnivore doctors say that I'm super high risk for a heart attack. I'm like, this is not cool. And I'm trying to figure out why, because everyone says that your trigs should drop like a rock. Your HDL should go up and your trigs should drop like a rock. And most people's experience shows that. Why am I behaving differently? So I've taken the fenofibrate loyally to bring my trigs down, and it works. And then I start doing some research. So then that's where the birth of those YouTube videos come from. My research shows that because of my chronic kidney disease, I'm spilling protein, and I'm spilling vitamin D, and I'm spilling things in my urine that I should be retaining.
Right.
The body makes an enzyme called lipoprotein lipase, and that helps break down triglycerides. And I found all this research data that says that a person with chronic kidney disease, they have lower levels of lipoprotein lipase, which is produced in the skin, produced in the liver, produced in the pancreas. I mean, everything produces this enzyme. And so the question is why? So my skin and my liver and my pancreas, all those things are fine. So it's not like they're producing any less. It only makes sense that I'm spilling the enzyme just like I'm spilling protein and just like I'm spilling certain vitamins. And so that's why my triglycerides got high. My triglycerides have a much longer life than your triglycerides because you produce this enzyme that goes to work. I produce the enzyme and I spill it out my urine. So mine, as my body fat dissolves off my body and goes into my blood, then it has nowhere else to go. It hangs around there. So now over time, once I stopped losing weight, over time, that number would have came down eventually. But my problem was well, before we get to my problem, I made a video on triglycerides. I also made a video on chronic kidney disease because the mainstream says that protein is bad for your kidneys. And so to be on a carnivore diet sounds crazy to people who subscribe to mainstream medical thinking.
Of course.
Right. But I read some studies that says that, actually it's not bad for your kidneys. But they always say not bad for healthy kidneys. And I can't honestly think of the mechanism as to why they would be bad for kidneys, even in my state. Kidneys are a filter, so yes, my creatinine goes up and my blood urea nitrogen goes up because my filters aren't filtering it out like they should because I have kidney impairment. But those things are actually harmless to be floating around in your bloodstream. And so how particular can they damage kidneys? So basically, I'm using myself as a guinea pig. And for my first year of carnivore, I saw little improvements in my kidney function, and my nephrologist was happy. And so I made a video about it. Like, hey, I have stage 4 chronic kidney disease. I'm doing a carnivore diet. Here's why I don't think you need to be afraid when your doctor decides to come in and scare the snot out of you. Here's why I don't think you should be afraid. I think I'm making small improvements and I'm doing fine. Well, a year later, after I reached my goal weight in November of 23, that's when I started the phenofibrate. Well, then in the November of 24, I had another blood test and my kidney numbers took a dive. I mean, my blood work was all over the place. Bad. And my PCP flips out, sends the results to my nephrologist, and my nephrologist says, hey, what happened? You were doing so good. You were making improvements. And what changed? And I'm like, I don't know. Nothing changed, And now I'm feeling like, guilty. I should probably take this chronic kidney disease video down. Maybe I don't want to mislead people. And then, at a certain point, as I thought about it, it dawned on me something did change. I've been taking phenofibrate for a year. And so I started doing research on PubMed for phenofibrate, and come to find out phenofibrate can damage kidneys. Phenofibrate can raise your serum creatinine levels. And sometimes and some studies said that the damage could be reversible. Some said that the damage would be irreversible. So I stopped taking phenofibrate and went to my PCP and showed him the studies. I'm like, here's these studies. You should not have prescribed that drug for a person like me, And he was like, well, I was just trying to stop you from getting pancreatitis. And I'm like, I understand that, but you look up all this data on phenofibrate. It's even on Wikipedia of all things. You don't even have to dig deep. It's on Wikipedia. Don't give phenofibrate to someone with kidney disease. It's bad for them.
Yeah.
Right. So unfortunately, my kidneys took a dive for the worse. Now I've been off phenofibrate since November of 24. I have rebounded only half of the kidney function I lost. So I have not returned back to where I was before the phenofibrate prescription, but I have recovered somewhat. But now as a consequence, I'm dealing with high blood pressure again. And I've got high potassium and high phosphorus that I didn't have to deal with before, so, it is what it is. But I was really anemic. My hematocrit and hemoglobin were really low. Those have come back up to the low range of normal. My cystatin C was low. It's come back up to where it was actually before. So that's a good sign. I look at that marker more than others. And so I keep on keeping on, I still think carnivores are the best thing for me. I know because of my pre-phenofibrate experience, I was doing good and making improvements. So there's nothing I can do post this tragedy that's going to be any better than what I was already doing before. So I'm still carnivore, like I said, 95% of the time, which was about true then. So, and Jason says, I hope you went back to that doc who prescribed it and said, hey pal, you just destroyed my kidneys. So I did. I I pointed the finger at him and told him exactly what happened. And I continued to see him until he retired. He just recently retired. And it's a little more interesting because when I started the carnivore diet, he was against it. He said you needed to eat, vegetables and chicken, or or oats, and then when I had bad blood work, in his mind, it was confirming what he already thought he believed.
Right. He thought it was the carnivore diet doing it to
He
you.
thought it was the carnivore diet doing it. And I'm like, it's just not possible. I talked to thousands of people on the carnivore diet whose markers improve. Something else is going on here. It was my kidneys. And he was flipping out about this marker, that marker, triglycerides, LDL. But after that, after he was made to realize that his prescription for phenofibrate is what screwed me up, all of a sudden he became super cool and cooperative. Because we used to argue, we used to butt heads and argue, and then now he's just like, he's really cool. He's really calm. He'll suggest a med, like he suggested a statin. I'm like, nope, not doing it. I can look up half of those. You shouldn't give to someone with kidney disease either. So,
right. Well, the statins are just,
yeah. And so, but he's gone now, and I'm in the market for a new doctor. So,
okay.
Yeah. So that was the point of creating the website. That was the point of making those videos specifically. And on a good note, my third issue is the ulcerative colitis. So things improved vastly when I quit coffee. And then things improved vastly even more when I started carnivore, because you go from going to the bathroom kind of regularly, daily, maybe multiple times a day, because you think that's normal.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden you're going once a week, twice a week,
right.
And at first you're like, "Ooh, something's wrong." And you're like, "I'm constipated," or, you because you just feel like something's wrong, because that's not what you're used to.
Right.
Now I realize that's my new normal.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it. I love it. I go to work with people that, at the same time every day, hour after eating lunch, they got to go to the bathroom and sit down. And I'm like, okay, that porta potty's cold outside. It's 0 degrees. I ain't sitting on that. I don't have to, because,
right.
I'm only going to
even if it
go
cold,
twice
you
a week.
really want to sit on that thing.
And
and
so
the flies don't even want to be there alone.
And then in the, I think it was the autumn or August of 2024. Yeah, because it's been a while since I made that video. I had a colonoscopy. So since 2019, I've had a couple colonoscopies, probably 3. They want me to get them every 2-3 years, because since I had ulcerative colitis, they consider me high risk for colon cancer. So even after quitting the coffee, I would still test positive when they do a biopsy. Cut a little piece of your colon, they go look at under a microscope. I'd still test positive for ulcerative colitis. But in November of 24, after being on the carnivore diet for a year and a half, I had a colonoscopy. They did the biopsy, and it came back negative for ulcerative colitis. So my major proud moment, my victory, is that I have literally cured, because I've got the medical documentation to prove it. I have cured what modern medicine says is an incurable autoimmune disease. And I cured it with diet, which also modern medical says has nothing to do with diet. So I'm delighted. That's my good news. I've cured ulcerative colitis thanks to the carnivore diet. So.
Something worth celebrating, definitely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a few things are coming into my head. Sometimes I things pop in. It's kind of scary sometimes, but I know you didn't have you had sorry, what
ulcerative colitis.
Yeah. Okay. My mom's friend, that she was kind of an aunt to me. She actually had, I forget the thing that she had, but she had a colostomy bag.
Mhm.
So it's like sort of like Kent Carnivore,
Yeah.
you know, and of course she ate the carbs and everything like that because she didn't know, and um and another thing too, coincidentally with me, is one of my jobs was I worked in the warehouse delivering mail, like internally, to the company that actually made colostomy bags. So I thought that that was sort of, I always like to try connections, somewhat connections with my guests, And I know you don't have the colostomy bag or anything like that. At least I didn't hear that while you were talking.
Yeah, I still have
Um,
my colon, so yes,
yeah, you
I'm
still have your colon, which is great, right?
yes.
And I mean, God forbid if you didn't have your colon, right? But yeah,
Right. I can't imagine what that's like. I mean,
yeah.
like Kent Carnivore, I'm sure if he would love to have learned know what he knows now back then before he had it removed. He could
Well,
have.
I mean, what's fascinating about Ken Carnivore is the one thing that he has told on his channel is about how whenever he has carbs, you see the waste of the carbs, like
Right.
the plant material. And whenever he eats fatty meat and stuff like that, it absorbs into our body, and there's very little, if there is any waste, it's very little waste at all. And to me, that's remarkable. That's amazing. And I mean, I'd love to have him on this channel. I'm sure you'd love to have him on your channel too. I mean, he's, probably could talk about my mom's friend and everything, even though they're not really friends anymore. They kind of like something happened. It was a long story. It's like sort of like parent drama, so to speak. And but yeah, no, I just, I mean, was that ever a topic that ever came up that you might have had to lose your colon or anything like that? Or
Yeah, my first colonoscopy back in 2010. That's when I got diagnosed,
okay,
and so they showed me after I came to and the anesthesia wore off, and I wasn't talking nonsense. The doctor comes in and he shows me the report, and he's got printed out pictures of my colon, and he says your colon looks like shit expletive, and he says that it's ulcer.
interesting term of words, but
Right.
okay.
He says, I've got what's called ulcerative colitis, and he said, there's a variety of things that we can do, and he said there's basically 5 drugs. The first couple are, like dipentam and mesalamine is basically like an aspirin for your gut, you
Okay.
know, and I think it is an NSAID, which is bad for kidneys to take all the time, by the way. You can kill your kidneys with ibuprofen if you take it all the time.
Mhm.
Uh, and then he said that there was also several steroids or immunosuppressants, that you could take. So basically, we started with the basics, and then the drugs got more. He says oftentimes what happens is the drugs will work for a couple of years, and then they'll stop working for you, and then we got to try another drug, and then that'll work for a while, and then that'll stop working. We got to move on to another drug, and then after you've exhausted the 5 common drugs to treat ulcerative colitis, and none of them work for you anymore, then you got to get your colon taken out. And he goes, we could just take it out now and be done with it. And I'm like, what? And
Yeah.
he's like, some people, they're anti-medicine. They don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with the drugs. And they say, I diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. And they're like, can you just go ahead and remove the colon? And I said, what would that be like? And he said, well, we give you either, I can't remember the name of the procedure, but they'll give you either a colostomy bag. There'll be a hole in your gut. You have to wear a bag that would catch your waist,
Mhm.
or there's another surgery where they can connect the end after they remove the large colon. They can connect the small intestine to your rectum, but then you
Right.
have to take another drug to help thicken your stool, because that's your large colon is what extracts all the moisture back out of it, and then you drop something relatively solid, and I wouldn't have that function anymore with the large colon, and I'm just like, well, you know, major surgery sounds terrible, and so does pooping in a bag coming out the side of my stomach. So I'll be happy to take your drugs.
Yeah,
So,
sometimes, yeah, you know.
but hindsight, you know what? Hindsight is 2020. They say, like, it's kind of weird. Like if I never, you know, I have kidney disease because of the drugs I took for ulcerative colitis. I had ulcerative colitis because of my bad eating habits, and I was particularly sensitive to coffee. So it's like if I never started drinking coffee when I was like 19, I would have never had this domino effect. I would never had any. I would never had the chronic kidney disease. I would have never had all this stuff. Would have never happened.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird to think back on it. And why did I start drinking coffee? Because I met some hot chick that drank coffee, and I
Yeah.
wanted to
I
have
mean,
something in
I
common
was
with her.
drinking coffee. My grandfather used to drink iced coffee all the time, and I drank iced coffee.
Mhm.
And I was probably about like 11 or 12 when I started drinking coffee.
Yeah. Now, a
But
lot of people like coffee is a sacred subject. They don't want to hear that when I say I quit coffee. But remember, you know, coffee is a plant. Coffee is full of plant toxins. A lot of coffee
right,
comes with mold, so you got
yeah,
the mold toxins in it too. But also remember the difference is I was not a cup a day. I was a pot a day.
right.
You know, so
Which
then there was,
most people are, you know, to get
and
to
then
get
on
better.
top of that, I was eating the junk. I was either eating the standard American junk diet, candy, tacos, burritos, pizza, you know, microwave meals, hot pot, you know, blah, 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 blah. Or I was, you know, healthy eating on a keto diet, but I was eating almonds all the time, spinach salads every day. Sometimes twice a day, I'd have another salad for dinner and, you
Mm.
know, pile on the seed oils or whatever. And so, you know, it's like, even when I thought I was eating healthy, I wasn't eating healthy. So you know, a lot of those toxins found in coffee are toxins found in those other vegetables too. So I was really, really overloading. Somehow it's a miracle that I've never had a calcium oxalate stone, a kidney stone, you know, with all the oxalates I was eating. So I was eating so many oxalates, you should just tattoo it across my forehead. Oxalate, you know.
Yeah. I always make the joke like, why are oxes always late? You know, because oxalates.
Oxalate.
Yeah, obviously I'm kind of corny, so you know, I think we all know that by now. Um, so yeah, so I actually I've been trying with my doctors for years to get a colonoscopy, but I keep on getting. I guess I have like the worst luck. Like most people can just be like, "Hey, I'm on colonoscopy." They write the script and they do the work, you know. But my doctors keep on like, "Well, we want to check your heart, see if you can take the anesthesia." And the last doctor I said to him, I said, "Well, you do realize I've had like 8 operations already, and all of them I passed the anesthesia, so I think I'll be okay." You know, but they still want to go through all this stuff, and you know, just all these excuses that keep on coming up. You know, so you know, but the way I look at it is like, okay, if I'm meant to have it, then God will make it where it's going to come out, and I'll have it. You know, so I'm sure someday it will happen. Um, but I just, you know, that's just an observation, so to speak. But
I see a couple comments that mentioned that you know, Atkins had the principles right, but what became of his company after he died is a whole other story.
oh yeah,
Yeah, and that's what happened is he died, and I think his family sold his namesake, then his company to another big food company bought it.
hmm
And that's the company that started they tried to turn it into almost like a hybrid between Slim Fast and Weight Watchers, you know. So all of a sudden they had Atkins pre-made dinners, they had Atkins shakes, they had Atkins bars, and I think Atkins would have been rolling in his grave. I don't think he would have approved of any of that.
yeah. Well, yeah, and the same thing comes from the keto.
Mhm.
You know, the keto. You know, you have the Atkins line, you got the keto line. You know, and you know, it's all to make money. It's all to just advertise and stuff like that. You know.
Right. And that's, you know, then that's interesting because carnivore, when you promote carnivore, there's really nobody making money. And I get accused of that all the time when I'm participating in different communities, you know, like, oh, you're trying to peddle something, you're trying to sell something. And I'm like, I don't have a product to sell. You know, I'm not selling a supplement. I'm not selling a vitamin. I'm just telling you to go down to your local rancher and buy some real food. You know, and so something that we get accused of a lot is oh, these carnivore influencers are just trying to sell you something. Sell you what?
Yeah.
I don't
I
have
mean,
any products.
I absolutely agree with that. 180,000%. Um, but I mean, I still, even though I agree with that though, like Dr. Barry, Dr. Kilch, you, me, we're not trying to sell anything. We're just advocating for how it helped us out. And we're just kind of like, I don't like to call us influencers. I'd rather call us inspirationalists, because what I'm just trying to do is inspire you through my healing. And I'm sure the same thing with you. We're just trying to inspire other people to just to think in a different direction, just to try it at the very least. But I can't help but, like, just like keto, just like Dr. Atkins, just like all these other things, that there obviously was somebody, some big business that used the name, that used the program, and figured out a way to put it into that direction. So I'm sure there's going to be somebody out there that's going to try to sell something from carnivore. But right now, I think that we are pretty humble, and we are pretty honest, for the most part. It's just, I think that we should keep our eyes open and just make sure, hey, if something comes up if somebody goes into the grocery stores and has the name carnivore on it, like, let's double check that and see if it really is.
I thought it'd be cool to start a restaurant and call it Chef Carnivore.
That'd be cool.
Have a restaurant chain that's just, and of course it would serve other things too, but it would, by the name, carnivores would be like, that's where you want to eat.
Yeah.
So kind of like Texas State Brazil, you're going to go there and get the hookup when it comes to the meat.
And I think anything like that, it won't really be because of meat, because meat's still going to be meat, and everything. And yeah, there's different fine points of meat, but the meat keeps us honest and stuff like that. And so the eggs and even most of the cheeses. But I think what they might start producing is like oopsie cake, and making it in a way that's not great, and just saying, hey, it's oopsie cake carnivore. And then, because just like before, when we were talking about how, we were like attracted to all these keto foods because it was easier to do. I wouldn't doubt if somebody tries to do
Oh
something,
yeah.
you know.
I think that's going to happen with the new food pyramid or food funnel,
Mhm.
if you want to, because it's actually shaped like that,
Yeah.
and it says eat real food at the top. So, if that actually starts to impact, the bottom line of big food, what are they going to do to try and, propagandize it, get you to come back? They're going to come up with these products and they're going to market it.
Right.
Contains real food, So
Right. Yeah,
food pyramid friendly,
exactly.
and it'll be a lie, just like the keto stuff was a lie.
And I'm sure that we'll all, like, not we'll probably not be tricked, because we're kind of aware already, even before it's happening. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be people out there that's like, oh, I thought of doing keto, and I'll just do it this way because it's so much easier to just, buy some of the products, and hey, I'm not cheating if I do.
Yeah. Tammy's got a good comment there. It's still on the screen. Coaching is what they're selling. And so that's accurate. And that I don't think is bad, because you're basically you're selling your time, and and when you get popular, like, with some of these larger, doctors / influencers, it's, your time is valuable. And when we start, our heart's in the right place. We want to get this information out, to everyone, and we want to do it for free. But when people start requesting you bits of your time, and you're getting thousands of requests, that's kind of what happens is, okay, so now you're going to start coaching, where if you really want my time that badly, you got to ante up. So I don't really see anything wrong in that.
No.
I'm just not there yet. So like, everything I do is free. In fact, everything costs me money. If I was to keep records of any of this, I'm in the hole. you know,
Right,
I
right.
pay for StreamYard every month. That's expensive. What I pay for StreamYard dwarfs what I might make in YouTube ads or anything else. But I don't mind it. Same thing with a website. I host it my own website. I have to pay for the license annually for that software. For me, it's all a labor of love, and I've got the spare money that I don't mind paying it, because I think the rewards of having a community and talking to individuals like this, that's for me, that's worth it, and it's my way of giving to other people,
Well, I
so
mean, if I'm not mistaken, you just like me, we're both certified from Kiltz's coaching course, correct?
I didn't complete it. I got to
You
go back.
didn't?
I got to go back and complete it. I got too busy.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I didn't know
I
that.
had
Yeah,
a,
I
yeah,
actually completed it. I just like like I don't think like there's a lot of people that did the coaching course, completed it, and aren't really doing the coaching. So I'm sure there's a reason for everybody not doing it. And my reason is basically I still have a lot of healing to do. That like I'm better than I was, obviously, just like you're better than you were, correct? And but I feel like there's a certain thing I want to accomplish in my healing that I just feel that I just don't think I should be a coach until I can get until that gets solved. I need to focus on me more than, and it sounds selfish, but in my journey, if I inspire people, then great. I don't really need to coach a person to inspire them,
I took the coaching course, and I will go back and complete the coaching course eventually. So what happened was, I started taking the course, and then my real life business, the real bread and butter, I'm in construction. I own a construction company here in Northeast Ohio. My best man quit. And at the same time, my son started working for me. So I had the extra work coming from my best man who was no longer working for me. And I'm trying to train my son in the trade. So
right.
so because of that, I was not able to have the time to finish the course, and because I've just been busy. It's another reason why I haven't made like a talking head video in several months. I'm doing the lives every Monday, but I used to create just talking head videos like on triglycerides and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I want to get back to that too. But again, time has been elusive, and and so that's
And
that.
just to prove, there's my
Mhm.
certificate right there.
Well, my reason for wanting to take this is so one, it was cheap, and two, although I did apply for Dr. Barry's the first round and I didn't get selected.
I would never be able to pay Dr. Barry's. When I
Yeah,
found out how much that was, I was like,
yeah,
no
I would.
offense, Dr. Barry's wonderful, but
Yeah. Well, I was gonna. It's still cheaper than like the primal health coaching is, and that's what everybody used to take was the primal health coaching.
right, yeah, it's
That's
true.
like $5,000. But so I applied for Dr. Barry's. I didn't get accepted in that first run. Then Kiltz came out with his drastically cheaper, and I don't really, like the certification. What's its real value? Well, I guess that depends on what you make of it, mark of it afterwards. But what I wanted to do was just by having it, the people that I talk to in real life, like I get together at open mic night with some family, and they're scoffing at me because I'm not wolfing down pizza. I got them. I had them made me a couple burger. They all know that I'm on this carnivore diet, and they've watched me lose a ton of weight, but they all still think that I'm crazy and I'm gonna die. And so even though they've seen all the improvements, they I try and talk to them about it, and they jokingly say like, "Oh, what are you? Are you Doctor? What are you now, Doctor Bob?" you know, and
Yes.
it's like, well, like I spent the last like 3 years like reading all kinds of studies on PubMed and stuff like that. No, I'm not a doctor, but I know what I'm talking about. Yeah, you're Dr. Bob.
Right,
Well, like, so if I could say with legitimacy, I'm a certified health coach,
right.
maybe that would shut some of them up,
Yeah,
maybe that would make them listen a little more like, oh, what are you, a doctor? No, I'm not a doctor. I'm a certified health coach. I have gone to class graduated, taken the training.
Yeah. Well, I
Like, oh,
mean, I
oh,
think
oh, okay.
I think the reason why I did it was for many reasons. One, to help inspire, to help people that may want my help, but also too to show some people, because there are a lot of people out there that like act like you don't know anything.
Mhm.
And it's not that I don't know anything. It's just like kind of like I listen more. I don't like try to show off what I know and stuff like that. But this is a little frustrating. So I thought maybe if I get certified, maybe that would just tell people that I'm not as naive as people think I am.
Yeah.
But and you don't really know if people think you're naive. It's just the way they come off. But yeah, I mean, I I think it's just something good to have. But one of the reasons why I'm not a coach really too is because of, like when they did the I don't know if you had that part, if you learned that part before you left or anything like that, but when they were having you like do like for the LLC, you have to do a business and you have to get yourself insured and you have to get yourself protected. I was like, okay, that's a lot. I just wanted to be able to get a coaching certificate and be able to help people whenever they wanted it and have some kind of certification. I wasn't
Mhm.
looking to make a business out of it. And that was like far from my thought process, to be honest with you. And so maybe down the road, that's where I'll go. But right now, I just want to do what makes my life feel better. It's
Mhm.
kind of why I'm doing the drawings now. I'm going to be started the other day and I'm going to start doing lives where I draw and, like while we're talking on the lives and stuff. And, you know, and everything. And my interviews, like I'm doing right now, they're sort of my inspiration. All you, like you, everybody. That's why I'm always so big on like I want you to come. I'd love to have that person on and stuff like that, because it sounds annoying to me too. But I just want to make sure that the interviews keep going and
Mhm.
everything. So you just kind of, just like you do your lives every Monday with a panel. I feel better doing interviews. I feel
Mhm.
better doing, these things. And so far we've been on for an hour and 16 minutes. We can still keep going, but it's totally up to you. Um, you know,
Let's see
um,
here.
let's see if anybody has any questions. I haven't seen anything, and I think Barbara is still here, so she didn't say anything to me, but
This is an early question where I think it was Grandma Crochet Corner asked what was my inspiration when I
yeah,
started.
I had that. Yeah, I had that put up, but then I thought to myself, I'm like, you know what? You're sort of going to be telling that probably.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So it was made the long version was what I just got done saying in my story. The short version was um, I was getting old, fat, overweight with several diseases. I felt like I was falling apart. In my I just turned 50. So in my early 40s through my mid 40s, I felt like the Grim Reaper was behind me,
Right.
always following me around. So, and I didn't like that. I had like issues with falling asleep behind the wheel. I had obviously the kidney disease and ulcerative colitis. I had aches and pains. I was obtuse, with my weight, and it was kind of weird. I'd go to my congregation meetings, and people would be like, how old are you, or you're not getting any younger, or something like that. And I can remember saying like or how do you like, how's your 40s so far? And it's like, I don't like it. I can actually feel sin's effect on my body. I can feel sin and death flowing through my veins, whereas in my teens, 20s, and 30s, I couldn't. That's the way I would describe my situation. And but then now that I've been on the carnivore diet, or a very carnivore centric diet, for the most part, I don't feel that way anymore. I feel better at 50 than I did at in my early 40s.
Mm.
So probably even better than my late 30s. I probably feel like I'm in my early 30s again. Easy. And the guy who quit for me, he was working for me and he's 35, and he was like, this, this, I don't know how much longer my body can do this. And I'm like, dude, I'm 50 and I really feel like I could keep doing this indefinitely. I mean, I know that's not realistic. I'll feel different at 60. I'll feel different at 70, but for right now, like I'm 50 and I'm like, I'm good, man. Let's set some more tile. Let's tear out some more bathrooms. Let's work. Come on, and you're 35 saying that you think you're done, So I don't know what to say, So I feel good. So
So,
yeah, I went from being sick and overweight. That was my motivation for getting started,
yeah.
wanting to live. That's how, I don't want to die. That was my motivation for starting the carnivore diet.
So we got two new people that just popped in. Lewis is here, and so is Dustin, Keto Simple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you mine first, and like obviously you said you watched Dr. Barry and everything, but the person that actually triggered the thought of carnivore making sense to me to help with my diabetes was Sarah Hallberg. I saw a TED talk with her, and when she said about fats, what fats do and what carbs do and stuff like that, it just made me, and then I thought, like, well, obviously if fats help with lowering blood sugar and insulin resistance and carbs raise it, then the logical choice would be to have a diet that's no carbs, correct? And so that was like the trigger. But then I also Dr. Barry, I saw Bella, and my first person I ever watched, another person. I watched a few people, but we did keto at first, and saw like people like Keto Connect, Bob Briggs, pants make my butter makes my pants fall down or fall off. All these people. Who was that first person that you saw that, unless it was Dr. Barry, I don't know, but who was that first person you saw that you witnessed and that said something that was like that just triggered that seed in you?
Oh, well, yeah. So like I said, Dr. Barry was my first introduction to carnivore because I was looking for keto recipes and I'd come up with his keto videos.
Okay.
And that brought that, and what he said, I was like, oh, you know what? Yeah, that's kind of what Atkins said in his book. That makes sense. That's what I was compared to because that was my first success with dieting. And then I started seeing these videos about carnivore, and I was like, oh, that's kind of crazy, but I'd watch them as Dr. Barry explained carnivore, I'm like, well, it makes sense. What he's saying makes sense. And then I started watching some other carnivore influencers too. So I eventually stumbled across Dr. Chafee, Dr. Baker, Dr. Kiltz, Steak and Butter Gal. Watched a couple of her videos. Nutrition with Judy. I actually liked hers. She's also one that's very logical, makes sense.
Yeah, no, I've seen her.
He's not, although he's not. I came across Dr. Bart K. Eventually, Barry introduced me to Dr. K.
Is Dr. Bart K an actual? Is he a doctor? I didn't know he was a doctor.
No, he's a doctor, not as in a medical doctor.
Oh, like more like a doctor.
I think he's a doctor, and he's got a PhD, but it's in something else. And then yeah, he calls himself Professor Bart K. Is what he calls himself.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And then I was also introduced to Paul Saladino. Okay, which he's not popular anymore in the carnivore community, but I think the guy's solid gold. He wrote one of the most incredible books. You want to get into the science of carnivore? Oh my gosh, this book is not for beginners. He digs deep, man. That guy's smart,
right.
And I know he doesn't do it anymore, and that's his prerogative.
Yeah.
And I do not disagree with his current philosophy, except for he'll tell you to eat 300 to 400 carbohydrates a day, whereas Dr. Berry will say no more than 100. So I agree with, you can eat the things that Saladino eats, but I think you need to keep it under Dr. Berry's carbohydrate limits.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Like mix the two together, basically.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan there. Dr. Cyrus, I know he's become less popular lately with some of the things that he said that people don't disagree with, but I still think he's got very valuable information to listen to.
Yeah.
Dr. Westman, he's good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. Eric. Yeah.
Yeah. And then for kicks, I'll listen to like Gil Carvalho or something, Nutrition Made Simple. He's anti-carnivore, but he's still kind of balanced.
Okay.
And then we got another Ohioan here named Dr. Allo, and he's I need to stop watching him, man. He's a statin pusher. He's like the opposite of carnivore. He hates it. But he pops up in my feed once in a while, so I'll start watching it. And then
Well, I guess sometimes it's good to watch these opposites just to kind of see where they're at.
Yeah. Like Dr. Ids, like Dr. Ids, he's actually very sensible in most of his content, but then he's very opposed to carnivore, and things like that. But if he's not on the carnivore subject, what he says is pretty balanced. So how do you feel about Abe?
Yes.
Who's Abe? Let me go look him up.
I'm not sure. Are you talking? Is it Dr. Abe?
Let me open a new window and go to YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
YouTube. So that tells you what I think about him. I'm trying to figure out who he is.
Well, to me, Abe could be a first name or it could be a last name. So yeah. No, if you want,
Dr. Abe. Yeah, I come up with a. Oh, here's a Dr. Abe. There's a channel called Dr. Abe.
Okay.
He's talking about communication and stuff in the Civil War. So I guess can't be the right Dr. Abe. Yeah, I don't know who Abe is.
She just admitted that she might have the name wrong. Oh, are you talking about Dr. Abs?
Oh, okay, so Dr. Abs is a familiar name. I think he was interviewed by one of the other doctors, Dr. Abs.
I think he was interviewed by Kilt, wasn't he, in one of the Zoom calls?
Yeah, so you know what? I think he's fairly reasonable too. I've only watched a couple videos of his, and so I'm not that familiar with him. He's not high on my list of content to watch, but I have been scrolling and there's a Dr. Abs video that caught my attention and I watched it, and it did leave a positive impact on me. I didn't watch part of his video and be like, this guy's as dumb as Dr. Allo.
Well, I mean, it's hard to keep up with all the, to watch everybody.
And Dr. Allo's not dumb, so I shouldn't say that. He's intelligent too. He just subscribes to a different philosophy.
Right. And that's fine, I mean, I'm okay if you do something else, that's fine. Just as long as you're not going to say that I'm wrong. If I don't say that you're wrong, don't say I'm wrong. It's like,
yeah. Well, oftentimes, like on my Monday Night Lives, I'll tell people like, you can click this link. Like, so there's no scheduled guests. Like I post the link and anybody can click that link and appear on screen with me. Surprise. You'd be my surprise guest. That's the way I do Monday nights. And I tell people like, I don't care if you're vegetarian, vegan, keto, carnivore, just eating a standard American diet and have some questions, as long as you're cool and not a jerk,
right?
You can show up on my screen. And if you as soon as you start being a jerk, I can click a little button and
there's some people out there that are in the chats that can be a little problematic, but
any problematic people usually stay in the chat. That's like their safe zone, is hiding behind the keyboard.
Well, yeah, exactly. And it's just, but yeah, as long as you're being respectful, then, like ask the questions and, because how are we going to learn? Like, how are we going to learn about each other? So, when's what month is your birthday?
I'm November.
November. Okay. So my sister is actually older than you.
Yeah. When I say I just turned 50, it was.
Well, were you born in 70? Were you born in 75?
75. Yep.
Yeah. Carrie, she's May 4th. So, the day before, Cinco de Mayo. and she actually just turned 50.
Mhm.
So I was just wondering if you were older or younger than her. Not that really matters,
She
but
turns 50 in May, or she's already 50?
she's 50 now. Yeah.
So she's a little older than me. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, she's older than you. She was born 75 too, but May 4th at
Mhm.
75. Obviously I'm older than both of you, I guess you could say.
I wouldn't know. Well,
Yeah, I was born in 72, so I'm just a few years.
okay.
But um yeah, but I made when she turned 50, I made the joke with her because, 50 is also the I didn't know this until I looked at it, but it's the same age that the Golden Girls were, from like the
Oh,
1980s. So I actually sent like a picture of the Golden Girls and I said, "What do you have in common with these ladies?" You know.
that's funny because the Golden Girls look ancient.
They do. Like I
Yeah.
was like reading this thing on Facebook on I didn't know this, but like Archie Bunker, All in the Family, he was 47 when All in the Family was out.
Right. Well, look at the things that we do today now, so one, we dress better, we don't have those older hairstyles anymore. And, we take advantage of like shaving our heads or maybe using some hair dye or something like that, so, we actually,
Yeah, it's just
we,
something
we
about us.
care, we care more about trying to still look young than people back then did. Didn't they? They just kind of accepted it. And that's a good comment too that John Golf says. Carnivore
Yeah,
age is different than the sad diet age. That's true. So
yeah.
like I'm 50, and so are all my classmates I graduated with. And I bump into some of them in public sometimes, and I'm like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" and everything, super friendly with them. And then I'll hop back in my truck and lean over to whoever's riding with me. I'll be like, "Man, they old." Do I look that old? And then usually my son, we ran into somebody, my son and I, and I was like, yeah, I actually went to school with them. And he was like, seriously? He's like, she's aging a lot faster than you are, Dad. So yeah, I do think carnivore age
I
has
agree.
something to do with it.
I agree.
However, I will say that when I lost a lot of weight rapidly from May 23 to November 23, I dropped 60 pounds like that.
Hmm.
So my face used to be fuller because it was fattier. And then,
Right.
and I used to be clean shaven, but then I had like this little chicken neck, turkey neck right here. I was like,
Yeah.
ooh, that thing's got to go. So I grew a goatee. I don't know if I shave it off, it might be gone now. Maybe now the skin has, retracted,
But
and
you could probably
yeah,
feel it if you just,
so yeah.
if you feel a little extra skin there.
But I think I lost it so rapidly that I was like, oh my gosh, look at these wrinkles.
Yeah. Jeff is here. Um,
Jeff's
well,
my
he's probably
man.
off your channel, but
Yeah.
he's still here.
Mhm.
So you
Yeah.
see how connecting our two channels helped. So okay, so Jeff's been on your lives, your podcast, whatever you want to call it, on Monday nights for a long time. I think there's only like once or twice I didn't see him on. How did just to ask, how did you meet? Because I mean, did you meet him through Kilts? Did you meet him through your website?
Kind of all of the above.
Okay.
So Jeff started his carnivore diet probably just a matter of days before I did. So we're kind of when it comes to how long we've been doing it, we're kind of neck and neck. And and I so he showed up on Carnivore Talk one day, and then also found out that he was a member of ketogenicforums.com. That's another forum community. They have a little carnivore section, but they're more about keto. He has a membership over there. So did I. And then he was also in Kilt's Mighty Tribe, and so was I. So kind of all three of them. I don't recall which one I might have bumped into him first, but I probably got to know him, more intimately on Carnivore Talk. So because as we got to know each other there, he said, "Oh, this is me over here, and this I'm also in Kilts." he told me where we have communities in common. And Jeff's a great guy. He's been he's been a regular. He's regular on Kiltz's forum, and he's regular at CarnivoreTalk. We both have kind of fallen behind on going to ketogenic forums. At least last I know, he has. I know I have. And then so he's. I actually made him a moderator in the community, and he's also a moderator.
The lunch is coming up for him, so I know.
And he's a moderator on my YouTube channel, so my only one at the moment. So
right.
And
well, I mean, he does a pretty good job,
yeah,
and everything. And just to let you guys, Jeff, if you ever want to do what Bob's doing right now and what Paul's going to be doing in a few weeks, and many other people, you're invited. This is a verbal invite that you're invited to be a guest on my channel. Just let me know, and so yeah, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of names here that are brand new to me. Obviously not brand new to you because they're coming from your channel. Again, Mark Zhammer. So welcome to my channel, Mark. Because even though you're coming from his channel, you are technically on my channel too. John Golf is on my channel, it looks like, but I'm not this is, I think, the first time I've ever seen you, John. So welcome. Yeah, I mean, there's probably a few people on here, but and Dustin just said about Bob Briggs actually doing a video. Sandy confirmed it, so I guess Bob Briggs is back. He left for quite a while. He had a personal situation. I don't really want to get into what I heard it was because it's. We don't know, it's his story, and everything. But if he's coming back, that's pretty good. I'm pretty glad about that.
Paul says that at 70, many of his classmates are gone. I saw
that. That's sad.
Yeah, that's kind of something I'm acknowledging too at 50 is like, I remember when I was a kid, like when I was like 10, and I'd hear my parents and their adult friends, we're in the living room playing video games. They're at the dining room table playing euchre, and they'd start talking about, oh, did you hear so and so died, or so and so died, or this celebrity died, or that celebrity died, and as a kid, I'm like, man, they sure know a lot of dead people, and then it just seems so weird that's like seemed like what they were always talking about. And then I fast forward in time to today, and it's like, my wife and my friends and we do the same thing. Like, we just had certain celebrities pass away in the last couple of weeks, that are noteworthy, classmates, people that were, we reconnected via Facebook. Then we find out that they're gone now. And yeah, it's definitely surreal as time goes on. The more people drop off, it's definitely odd. I like John's comment too about everything is the opposite of reality. Everything is the opposite of reality.
Yep.
In carnivore, more energetic with half the sleep, more energetic when fasting. Okay, so that's also true. So carnivore is interesting because it's made me what I call biphasic. I fall asleep at like 10 or 11. I wake up at 2 or 3, let the dog out, go to bed, fall asleep again. And it used to be in my previous non-carnivore life, the alarm would start going off at 7:30. And I'm like, snooze every 10 minutes, snooze till it's like 8:15, snooze. Then I get out of bed, like slither, like crawl my way to the teapot or the coffee pot at one time, and like sit there, like, wait for it to brew, make my tea, sit in my recliner, like, I don't want to go for today. Yep. I hate life. That doesn't happen anymore. Like, I wake up before my alarm goes off, like my body clock. I'm just like, boink, I wake up. I don't need tea or coffee. I don't have a bad mood about the day. I'm just ready to go, and that's one of my carnivore perks, that I've really enjoyed. I mentioned falling asleep at the wheel. I used to come home from work and I'd have to stop halfway or most of the way home. I couldn't make it all the way home. I had to stop in a parking lot, like at Mark's grocery store or something. I'd have to pull into a lot and shut the truck off and just go to sleep. I could not make it home. And
Yeah.
and a couple times I tried, I actually fell asleep behind the wheel and ran into somebody.
Yeah.
That
I did the same thing. I was lucky enough not to run into anybody.
yeah.
But I remember one time I was driving down the main highway and like the interstate, and I'm like on my way home, and there's a certain distance that you're going, and all of a sudden like I didn't see anything, and all of a sudden like I'm about like at least 30 feet 30 feet from, and I knew that there was a spot that I passed, and I was like, okay, I don't remember passing that. Like
Mhm.
what, you know? So I knew that I must have I knew that I must have dozed, and I made it home. I was fine, but yeah, I mean, I used to have that kind of issue all the time, just like you did. And I think what was hurting me were the lights, because they would shine my eyes, and they would like, because I think that's what, like, I get tired all the time now too, but I'm at home right now in front of the computer, and I think it's the computer that sometimes the light, can affect. So I think, like, because when I'm outside in the sun, I'm not tired. I'm fine, But when so that's kind of why I wanted to lesson on doing some of these, like watching videos and stuff like that, because I was like, okay, I need to move more. But then the snow happened, the ice happened, and so the track is out of commission. It's like, yeah,
This winter's been brutal. I can't wait for it to be over.
I can't wait. I mean, I don't know how long, because for some reason, even though it's a town thing, they just don't shovel. They don't, so it's like you have to wait until the track totally melts before you could actually walk safely around it. Thank you, Paul. Um, Paul's saying that I can draw, so thank you for that. I appreciate
And he
that.
mentions having a new lease on life, and I think that's the way a lot of us feel.
Yeah.
So I mentioned the no more narcolepsy, the waking up with energy, and not feeling like death after even getting a full night's sleep. I used to have periodontitis, bleeding gums. That's gone. I probably could list out a dozen things that I've seen improvements on.
And Mark is saying that he became a vegan in 1980 before the word existed. I was a vegan preacher until 2018. I will sub the channel. This was great to watch on a Saturday. So thank you, Mark, for that. And I'm interested to find out if you are, because you said you stopped being vegan until 2018. So did you become carnivore, or did you coax into and do like more keto or more low carb? Um, and John actually mentions that the blue light from the screens confuses the brain, not as it's the sun, but as it gets confused that it's natural blue light. Yeah. So I think if I actually get those blue blockers, that might actually help and make me less tired. Yeah. Do you get tired when you're on the computer screen a lot?
Only if it's late. If it's late, past my bedtime, sun's down,
Yeah, because
So
you're tired because of the bedtime too.
right, yeah, yeah. It can it can. I get tired of sitting in this chair after a while sometimes too. But yeah. So I was thinking of you mentioned vegan. Like I have a lot of vegan friends still.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably why I'm so just cool with it. So I know I have a lot of vegan friends, and currently it's working for them. Whether it continues to work for them or not, indefinitely, I don't know. We'll see. I think modern technology makes it possible because the things that you would not get as a vegan, you can find a pill for today. So modern technology makes it sustainable, but I don't think it's natural by any means.
Right.
I don't think you go back a few hundred years, or not even that long, nobody could be a vegan. You would definitely have malnutrition at some point. The only reason you can pull it off today is because you can eat mass quantities of a variety of things and have them shipped right to your door, or they're just down the street at the grocery store. And there's a pharmacy nearby to get the pills for what you're missing. So, you know, I understand people who do it for, the compassion for animals. I get it, and I'm not going to shame them for that, and but when you start when you start having issues, joint pains, chronic issues, maybe you should come back and we'll have a little talk. Maybe you should rethink some things.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
So,
that's just give it a shot, and just I I would be happy if, like, if you at least give it a try for 30 days. See, at the very least, give it a try for 30 days and just see improvements that you may, and look for all the improvements, even ones that you didn't even think of. If nothing happens and you don't feel any better or anything like that, well then do what you want, do what you think is best. It's your body, it's your thought process, and we all have a right to our thoughts, correct? And just really quickly, I just want to say hello to Lainey, Leanne, Raggedy Charlie in New York. She's mostly on Barbara's channel. I met her, and she's saying that that she's here to support me. So thank you there. I appreciate that. And Mark is answering the question that I asked. He said, I did keto slowly into total carnivore. I had osculate issues, kidney stones, and weak stomach acid, almost 90% carnivore now. Great. You measured on what was working for you and what wasn't, and this is where you're at now. So I think that's really cool, Mark, and everything. And again, it's super great to meet you. And then we have Heather Sugar Free, new here from Newfoundland, Canada. Welcome from Canada. I appreciate you coming. I was vegan until 4 months ago, carnivore now. It's funny, and I don't know if you noticed this or you agree with it or not, but have you ever noticed how there's more vegans that turn carnivore than there are carnivore that turn vegans?
it does seem to be the way it goes.
Yeah. Um,
I
you
have
know,
heard of it going the other way, but yeah, most of the time it's vegan to
yeah,
carnivore. Yeah.
it's like maybe one out of every 10.
I think that when it goes the other way, I think that they probably were previously vegan and they tried to do. And so, like, here's a good question for Heather is, did you just make the switch cold turkey or did you have to transition? Because I know people that were vegan and then they try and eat meat and they're almost repulsed because they don't have a taste for it. And then I've also known other vegans that they bite into meat and they're like, oh my God, this is so good,
Yeah.
And I've seen it both ways, but that's where I've seen is some people, they try and switch to fatty meat and they can't take it. And so they revert back, so it happens.
And Heather's saying that I was terribly unhealthy as a vegan.
Yeah.
And then she says cold turkey, and I hated meat. I am getting used to it now. Yeah, I
All
think
right.
I mean, look at Jen, man. She didn't like she didn't like certain things. She was pretty appalled by it, and now she's full carnivore. So
Yeah.
um,
Well, some people can make that switch, but other people,
yeah, it's a mindset.
it's a difficult adjustment.
Yeah, it's a mindset. I mean, there's some carnivore foods that I just I never liked like there's one food that I never liked as a kid. Everybody thinks I'm crazy. I just didn't like. I never liked liverwurst. It was the one food that I hated as a kid. I hated the smell, hated, and yeah. But but that's just the way it is. Like I just, like I can't even look at the stuff. That's how much. I can eat liver. I just don't like the mushiness of the liverwurst.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, that's well, it's kind of like by way of example, like when I switched to Diet Coke, I hated it, but I acquired a taste for it by continuous subjecting myself for it. Right
yeah.
now, I don't drink soda at all, but I drink carbonated water. I used to loathe this, hated it, but
Now
I
it's
love it. Now I
right.
love it. So,
Yeah, I mean, there's some
so
things
when
you
you
can
switch from
definitely
vegan to meat, you might hate it at first, but that you keep doing it and you'll eventually love it because a lot of tastes are an acquired taste. So,
get.
And yeah, this is my buddy Chris.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah,
for him to remember something like that, that's
yeah. No, he lives down the street from me. We've been friends since childhood.
oh,
But yeah,
welcome,
no, I
Chris.
we're going
Appreciate
back
you
to
being
the
here.
narcolepsy incident. Like I talked about how I fell asleep. You might be a couple minutes behind on the stream on Facebook. I fell asleep at the wheel. Uh, I said I would have to stop at a parking lot and take a nap. Well, there was one time I was driving home and I hit stopped traffic on Route 8. And so it was just bumper to bumper to bumper to bumper stop. And so now I'm just sitting there. You know, I'm not even like, I don't even have to drive, you know. So like I'm just sitting there, nothing's moving. I'm feeling myself nodding off. I'm trying to wake myself up. I'm trying to sing something along on the radio to keep myself awake. Next thing I know, boom! Like I woke up. What happened is I dozed off and I took my foot off the brake and I rolled into this car in front of me. And so my insurance had to buy him a bumper and buy me a bumper, and you know that was out my deductible or something. But yeah, that stunk. But I don't expect something like that to happen again. So that was pre-carnivore. Like I said, that was an issue I had all the
Right.
time.
Yeah, so you had, like, all that stuff.
In fact, after
So
that, I was made to go get a sleep apnea test and do a sleep study and a sleep apnea test to see if I had sleep apnea, you know, because they thought that might have been a problem. I don't know what the problem was, but I do know that, you know, my carnivore diet fixed it. So,
every once in a while, like, I'm trying to do all meat now, doing back to carnivore, but, I do go off off the wagon a little bit. I actually did a video based on it that I did go off kilter for a couple days. But every once in a while, I'll have, like, here and there, like pickles or something like that, and but not enough to not make me carnivore, and um, like I think that if I ever did kind of like go like just a little to the side, like the pickle thing or something like that, I wouldn't mind. That actually sounds. That's why I'm putting on the screen. That kind of sounds good. The prime rib with the creamy peppercorn sauce. That actually sounds pretty good. So if
right, and that
If
creamy
Bob doesn't
peppercorn
try it,
sauce.
Christian, I definitely will probably
Yeah,
try it someday.
yeah, I love prime rib. So you know what we had the other day? Um,
Well, obviously,
we
I love prime rib.
we made this beef cut. A friend gave us. They bought a cow and they gave us this big cut of beef. And so we threw it in the crock pot the other day,
Hmm.
and then my wife, she wanted something to go with it, so she's like, "Can you pick me up?" And they make these little single serve mashed potatoes and macaroni and cheese. That's what she wanted to go as a side, and I'm thinking like, okay, and I was like, just eating the beef by itself, if that's all there, this particular beef, it's like a roast, it's going to get kind of boring real fast. And so I got a jar of sauerkraut, I was like, this will go with the beef very well.
Oh
And
yeah.
then I got a single serving microwavable, I'm trying to remember the name of it. It was a cauliflower with cheese. There's a special name for it. So basically, it looks like mashed potatoes, but it's not. It's actually mashed cauliflower.
Okay.
With some melted cheese on it. And I microwaved that, and I had that as my sides with that beef. So that's my non-carnivore food for like the last 2 weeks. So like I said, I'm carnivore every day, every meal, most of the time.
Right.
So
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing to every once in a while.
yeah.
I remember seeing years ago that they were saying that meat should be more of a garnish. They were saying
Meat
like
should be a garnish?
this is year before
Oh,
carnivore.
okay.
And I remember seeing somebody was saying like, you should treat like, like if you have bacon, just have like a little sprinkle of it, or just have like a little, it's back when they were doing the chicken and everything like that. And most of it should be the vegetables and all that stuff. We all know how much crap that I think that is. But I sort of think that it's okay. I think it's okay to occasionally, for me, the more meat I have, the more fats I have, I'm better off that way. But it doesn't mean that I can't occasionally have a pickle, or I can't occasionally have some sauerkraut, or like even Dr. Kiltz occasionally has the French
French
fry
fries.
potato,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that having it occasionally, and I'm going to use the word, or like to quote Dr. Kilt, from time to time, but um I think two of the problems that we have with that is, they say, oh, just moderate. But we don't know what that even means. It's like, well, I'm going to moderate a beer. So I'll have one beer a day. Well, that doesn't mean that it's going to be something you need. It's not going to, like people can still become alcoholics because they're like, well, I had one beer and I think one more is not going to hurt me. And it's like, it's hard to get out of that. But, like, I don't know. Like maybe I'm just kind of thinking out my butt.
Well, like I said earlier, that still fits on the proper human diet scale. I always go back to Dr. Berry. I believe in a carnivore centric diet. I do believe we're hyper carnivores. That means 70% or more. I'm probably at 95 and above.
Yeah.
Like I said, I had that a few nights ago, maybe 5 nights ago now. Like the next time I eat off plan will probably be in another week or two. We might end up down at, there's actually a Mexican restaurant here in town. They make this it's like molcajete something. I don't know. It's like this big volcano bowl thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like $30, but they've got a couple steaks in there, a couple chicken breasts in there. They've got all kinds of shrimp in there, and of course it comes with rice and beans on the side, but I ain't gonna eat that, and I get this thing because it's loaded with meat, generously loaded with meat. It's soaking in some sort of like salsa sauce, and it's got some peppers and onions in it. I'll go ahead and eat that,
Yeah.
But that's like, again, that's the only vegetation I'm going to have for probably the next 2 weeks. Or, even Bart K. I was watching Bart K's live like 6 months ago, and someone asked him like, oh, I've been having this crazy craving for an apple lately. What should I do? And Bart K was like, have an apple.
Right. I actually have always
the end of the world.
I've always, like, whenever I have a craving, okay, like one of the reasons why I'm able to, like, every once in a while I'll go downstairs and I have my low blood sugar, and most of the time my cravings don't go over. Like the only reason I went over that for those 2 days is because I was started having some stress and getting some depression, and just it overpowered, and just, but and obviously I wasn't eating enough fats and stuff like that. And I actually did look at my macros and found out that I was eating a lot less fat than I thought I was. Like my protein was actually, so now working with Dr. Phil, he actually said that you need to at the very least reverse it, because I was like doing like 250 grams of protein and only 130 grams of fat. And I thought I was doing a lot more fat, and it ended up it was not as much as I thought. So, and it was probably only for those few days that I did the recording, because I ran out of the butter, I ran out of this. So, obviously I got back the butter, I got back the other things. And, I figure I'll cut the proteins in half. Instead of having a whole steak, I'll just have half a steak, but I'll have the same, and hopefully that will help, but, I'm sorry, every once in a while my brain kind of, obviously it shows I have not enough fat, because my brain sometimes gets like that blockage.
Well, you want to get that 1-to-1 ratio, and you weren't getting that when you had 250 grams of protein and only 130 grams of fat.
Right. I was getting the 2-to-1, but in the opposite direction.
Right.
And so now things are better for me. It's going into the right direction. And everything. And my sugars, actually I don't even know what my sugars are right this second. They're at 125, so that's horrible.
That's an extra struggle that you have that I don't have to even deal with, because you've got the type 2 diabetes, and you got to worry about hyper and hypoglycemia and insulin dosages and things like that.
Right.
So that's a whole new set of circumstances that, is going to require a little more attention,
right,
to detail.
I remember what I was going to say. I apologize. So even before carnivore, I always felt this, and I always felt it helped me. I'm not saying it helps everybody, but it always helped me. That if I had a craving, if I had it, if I would kind of like, if I waited to have, like, say I like had a craving for like a cheesecake. Well, if I waited to have it, the craving would get bigger and bigger and bigger, and I'd always be thinking of that cheesecake, right? So what I learned to do before I became carnivore was I would actually just have a small piece of it, just enough to entice the palate. Now, that obviously didn't work eventually, there's times when it doesn't work, but it was just enough to be like, okay, like you had it, you're done with it, you move on till the next craving, you
Okay,
know.
yeah, that makes
And
sense.
um and for the most part it does work, but then there's times when it doesn't, you know. But like I'm able to go downstairs. For the most part, I can go downstairs when my sugar's low and I can get one Oreo cookie and then that's it. Now there's two reasons why I can do that. One, I don't have it at home. I just go down to the candy store and it's to me it's way too expensive to buy like the whole package. They cover it with the fudge and everything like that, and they charge about $4 a cookie, you know. So, that's a lot of money to be buying 12 of them, Can you imagine how much that would cost? You know? So being cheap or being thrifty kind of makes it where I don't do any more than that. And also because it's a glass case. If I broke the case and like stole all the cookies, that would be stealing and breaking and entering. So I just don't bring, and I just keep it from home. My rule is if I'm going to have anything like that, it's only outside and it's only at the candy store.
Don't bring it in the house.
I never bring it in the
Yeah.
house. And that's one thing, like my roommate, he brings a lot of this stuff. He's been pretty good for the most part, but he's not as good as I am. And I told him like there's certain things that you have, if you're going to bring into the house, and you just have to do it yourself and just keep me out of it. And he's been pretty good at not, and
Yeah.
everything. But
Yeah. So you know what that makes me think of a story, and then I'm probably gonna have to bail out here shortly.
that's no problem. Yeah, we just have to do the ending right before
Yeah.
you go. So just,
Okay. There's a so my first year of carnivore, I was strict. Okay. And I mean, I was that guy that I went to the restaurant and I'm like, I can't have the side and I can't have the salad. Can you maybe slip me some more meat?
Mhm.
There was a couple times where I was like, I want to know how you cook your steak. Do you cook it in seed oils? Oh, I'm allergic to seed oils, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. And like I said, I don't do any of that. I don't do any of that anymore, but I was really strict that first year. Also that first year, the reason I was strict was because if I deviated, then I had problems, big problems. And I'll give you a couple examples.
Mhm.
So I started in May, and then around October, my wife makes pumpkin bread, and it's my mom's recipe. So she bakes this stuff in the oven. I'm upstairs recording a YouTube video, and she comes into the room where my office is, and she's like, here, would you try a slice of this pumpkin bread? It's your mom's recipe, And she asked me if I would you have a slice? I said, no, I won't have a slice. And she goes, well, would you have a bite? I want you to tell me if it's like your mom's. I'm like, sure, I'll have a bite.
Right.
Okay. So I took a bite, and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I was jonesing. I wanted the whole freaking loaf. And I'm shaking like from withdrawal symptoms, or like I was like, this must be like what a crack addict feels like. I couldn't believe the feeling that came over me. And I went downstairs and I'm stuffing my face with pepperoni, beef jerky, cheese. Nothing would satisfy me, I mean, until I eventually got stuffed. But oh my God, I just ate and ate and ate and ate. And I ate carnivore friendly stuff, but I was craving the sugar and the grains so bad. And I was like, wow, I've never experienced anything like this. This was unreal. Now, then it happened a second time. My son used to work at Panera Bread before he worked for me. And they came out with a new sandwich. He was telling me about it. He's like, this is really cool. Would you, let's go there. Would you try one of these sandwiches? I'm like, no, I'm not going to order a sandwich. And he's like, well, would you at least have a bite if I ordered one? I'm like, sure, I'll have a bite. Same thing. I'd have a bite of his sandwich. It was delicious as all get out. And then I started having the shakes again, and like, oh my gosh, I'm just jonesing for food. I want candy. I want sugar. I want fruit. I want, my body feels like it's starving all of a sudden. I was at Panera Bread, so there's like nothing there to eat. I ended up getting like a Greek goddess salad or something, because this is of all my options, that was everything else is bread, bread.
Right.
Everything else is bread and danishes, and I'm not going to touch that, So I ate that to try and calm it down. I was like, I can't believe this, but what's nice now is now that it's been, 2.5, 3 years, going on 3 years, I don't have that anymore. So now if someone's like, hey, I made this, would you try a bite? And I'm saying, sure, because I just think it's respectful. Then I don't have that reaction, no matter what it is. It used to be. So like I talk about my food philosophy.
Right.
My food philosophy is I got to be able to hunt it, milk it, or pluck it off a vine or a tree and eat it without it making me sick.
Oh, well, yeah, of course.
Then I think it's human food. So that eliminates grains and sugar, because you just can't go eat it. Okay, you got to process it. And that also, for me, eliminates most legumes or beans, because most beans are toxic and will make you very ill or kill you if you don't boil the toxins out of them. So that basically, things that fit into my food philosophy would be meat, cheese, dairy, and select fruits. And some vegetables are actually fruits. Okay.
Right.
And, usually stay away from roots, seeds, stems, and leaves. So in my opinion, those things are pretty much in the safe zone to eat unless you're particularly sensitive about it. And so I'm trying to remember where I was going with that.
Yeah. You know how I feel.
I know where I'm going with that. So I talk about, okay, occasionally, I go off plan. If I go off plan, it has to fit in. If I go off the carnivore plan, it has to fit into that philosophy. And I still stay within that 70% hyper-carnivore rule. So if I'm going to cheat, I'm going to cheat with keto. I'm going to cheat with animal-based. Like I said, I have nothing wrong with having an apple once in a while. Blueberries once in a while. Broccoli once in a while. I know a lot of these things have toxins in them that aren't good. Once in a while, your human body is miraculous. It'll deal with it just fine if you're having it once in a while and not bombarding with it daily. The only exception that I make to my food philosophy is when we go celebrate our wedding anniversary.
Okay. Yeah.
So we go out to celebrate our wedding anniversary. We'll typically make a reservation at a high-end restaurant where you are going to spend an obtuse amount of money on your meal.
Right.
So expensive it should be illegal.
Right. Insulting, almost.
Yeah. So, and it might be a suit and tie kind of place or whatever, and you go there, and for the amount of money I'm dropping, you better bet I'm going to lick everything off that plate. And usually at the end, they'll bring you a free dessert, because when you make the reservation online, they say, is this for a special occasion? You're like, yeah, an anniversary. So at the end, even though I didn't want dessert, they usually come out with ice cream or a cake or a brownie or something like that, and with a candle in it. And they're like, happy anniversary. Here's a free dessert on the house because we just charged you $250 anyway.
And that's probably without the drinks, right?
Right. And so then, I go into that night knowing darn well that I'm going to eat off plan. So like I might have a bite of that ice cream, which I make carnivore ice cream at home, but I might have a bite of that brownie. Usually I'm repulsed by it. Usually I'll take a bite of it. I'll be like, man, that is sweet. Oh, right. Oh, that is rich.
Can we talk about overload?
Yeah. You can have it. I'm like, that's too much for me. Usually that's what happens. But, that's the one time a year that I will violate my personal food philosophy.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and I don't think anything's wrong with that. Like there's so many people out there that are so dogmatic, or they don't even realize how dogmatic they sound at times, and, I had the same philosophy. Like I try to keep in control, much as possible. But I have this one philosophy that if I go to my sister's for like the holidays, my family, I'm not going to argue with them, you know. And if my niece goes to me and says, "Hey, I just made some lemon cake. Do you want a slice?" Then I'll just be like, "Yeah, just make it a small slither, and I'll try a piece or something like that." Or, you know, I might have like a little bit of like some kind of like, you know, like I don't really like mashed potatoes. I like them, but not anything. I sort of like russet potatoes better, or like baked potato more, you know.
Mhm.
Especially when it's loaded and you have like all the cheese and the sour cream and all that stuff on it, you know. But I just don't have it because I just try to stay away from it. But it doesn't mean, you know. But how often would I be going to my sister's? I go Christmas, Thanksgiving, and then maybe Easter, and those are the only 3 times I go.
Yeah.
And
So
you try to keep in control, you know, like what I used to have is a lot more than what I would do now. Now it'd be sort of like I could fit maybe that much on my plate of what I have now, where before it was like this, you know. And
Mhm.
you know, and you try everything, you know, but you know,
Yeah. So I'm the same way. So from a couple, from time to time, some friends or some family might have us over to their place for dinner,
right,
you know. And so if I have some friends that invite me over and they're providing food, they're showing me some hospitality, I'm usually going to eat whatever they provide. Now I will try and proportionate so I'm eating more of the good stuff and less of the stuff that I would rather avoid. But I'm not going to just say, I'm sorry, I can't eat any of that. To me, that's rude.
right.
They were so kind to have us over, so kind to provide a meal. I'm going to eat it, So
Mhm.
that happens on occasion. And in fact, the last time that happened, it was it was the first time. This is kind of why I make an emphasis on legumes now. I hadn't had any kind of beans since before carnivore, before 2023. And we visited my uncle's congregation. And afterwards, we got invited over to a get together afterwards where a bunch of people were bringing a prepared dish. And so we got invited, even though we didn't have anything to prepare, but we were, but my uncle was invited. So we got to tag along. And someone brought a white chicken chili with these white beans, and someone brought a regular chili with the kidney beans, and then someone brought cookies and cupcakes and some cornbread. And so I didn't have any cookies, any cupcakes, or any cornbread, but I was like, okay, I'll take a small bowl of the white chili and a small bowl of the red chili because I want to compare them. And so I did. I had a small portion of each, and thank you very much. It was really good. It was really good. Oh my gosh, that night, I had the most disruptive stomach pains, gas, and bloating that I had felt in years. I wanted to die.
Right.
And I knew right then and there, you know what? Hey, why do I feel this way? Well, because I ate the beans, and guess what? Beans actually violate my food philosophy.
Right.
They're toxic. Even after you cook them, there's still little toxins in it. And apparently it was enough to send my stomach into a frenzy. And so yeah, so now if I get invited and it's chili, I'm gonna have to pass. So
Yeah.
live and learn.
Yeah, I mean, basically, but I mean, I think most of us do what I said too, because, you know, they invite you to their house, and you just don't really want to, you know, you just don't want to fully insult them, you know, because then they're going to try to get you to go off what you're doing and everything like that. You know, if you just meet them a little bit, just kind of get that go through the window, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know, it's just so
Well,
much.
if they had provided chicken, I'm fine with that.
Right.
Steak, seafood, I'm fine with
Yeah.
that. It could have been bologna salami, I'm fine with that. Cheese, I'm
Right.
fine with that. They
Yeah.
could have provided
Deviled eggs. Yeah.
deviled eggs. It could have been cold. It could have been cold cauliflower, carrots, and broccoli. I'd have been fine with that.
Right.
Or
And
sometimes we
what?
go to a graduation party, and everything there is pizza, you know, cookies, and then you have like a fruit
Right.
salad that's got the strawberries, grapes,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
cantaloupe, or
No, I
walnuts.
mean, obviously for
I'm
Thanksgiving,
okay eating the
Christmas,
fruit. That's
and
within my
Easter,
food
there is
philosophy,
meat,
you know.
it's just a
So,
matter of the other
you know,
stuff,
but now in the future, if I go have if someone shows if they got chili, I'm just gonna be like, I can't eat it. I just can't.
Right. Oh, yeah, no,
Uh,
and even with I don't eat everything, I
mhm.
mean, obviously, there's things that, I'm not, like, totally I'm not that loose about it, but and the thing is even if they're cooking, they don't know how we like our food, like, I love my steaks just salt, basically. I don't need to have all this stuff on. Now, even though that peppercorn sauce that I forget what his name was,
Chris.
Christian, right?
Yeah.
And, um, that sounded good, and that's something I would have once at least, because I used to love peppercorn ranch and stuff like that, so it just sounds pretty good. Um, but I don't normally put the only sauce I really use now is, like, hot sauce, and I put that on my eggs or,
Mhm.
you know, and 1 or 2 other items I put that on. But, my pork rinds, I actually put in sour cream and actually make it like a sour cream sauce for the pork rinds.
Yeah, I would try the peppercorn sauce. Now there might be a good chance that that's got seed oils in it, but again, if I'm just
I
having it
think a
once,
little
if I'm
amount and
having it
just
once in a
doing it
while, I don't care.
right, and
You
just
know.
doing it once, I think that would be really good with some prime rib, and, making the joke, obviously, I like prime rib because it is. My story, my name, comes a little bit with the prime rib, obviously, but, I mean, Parker Prime actually started out as a book that I wrote. That I that's where the thing came out, and then what other steak is there than prime rib? So it just made sense to add the prime rib to it. Plus, I had prime rib that Christmas right before I became carnivore. But
All right,
you know,
I would like to wrap up.
yeah. So sorry about that, Bob.
Oh, that's okay.
Um, so thank you everybody for coming in. You actually had one person on Facebook, Don Crouch. On your Facebook actually liked. For some reason, StreamYard announced it to me right away. So I
Mhm.
feel you'd like to hear that. So everybody, live, love, heal, and for God's sakes, whether you do a lot of it, whether you do nothing but it, eat the meat.